about in a introduction to object oriented programming. Okay, we'll cover two things. First one, what is object and what is a class. Okay, we'll see one by one. Okay, first we will see what is object. Object represents a entity in a real world, such as a person, thing, or concept. We'll see. Okay, it's a real-time entity. It's also called real-time entity. Person in the sense, either you can take as a student, okay, or teacher, any person. Okay, the object represent any person, any living thing, or it represents a things. It's treated as book or pen, etc. Anything it will be represent. Concept in the sense, it will be a time, a day, or week, like that. Any concept it will be represent. Okay, it is a real-time entity, and it has a three characteristics. What is the three characteristics? Here the three characteristics are there. It has a identity, state, and behavior. Okay, I'll explain these three characteristics within an example. Okay, we'll see the example. For example, we'll take an example. Student is a object. If we treat student is a object, okay, we'll identify student by rule number. Okay, we'll identify a student by rule number is treated as an identity. Okay, while we identify with rule number, why not we not identify by name? Because there is a possibility two students have a same name, so that's why we'll identify student by a rule number. Okay, next, student belongs to a particular class. Student belongs to a particular class is treated as a state, and student have their own actions and reactions towards others is treated as a behavior. Okay, if we take student as the object, student have its own rule number as the identity. To identify the student, we represent a rule number, and class, student belongs to particular class, it is treated as a state, and students have their own actions and reactions is treated as a behavior. Now this identity is treated as a data, and this state and behavior will treat it as a function. So here we are combining the data and function into a single unit is called an object. So everything in a object oriented programming implemented by these objects, so that's why it is called object oriented programming. Anything you want to write, it's treated as an object. For example, student, if you want to, for example, anything, for example, now we are discussing about a person. If you want about anything, okay, we'll see three characteristics of another example. Okay, for example, you can take anything. For example, you can take any fruit have a color, fruit have a color, and fruit have a shape, fruit have a name. Okay, name to identify, shape is a state, and sorry, okay, instead of color we can take a taste is a behavior. Okay, instead of taste we'll take taste is a acts as a behavior. So like that we can define three characteristics for any object, also any thing also. It's treated as an object. Okay, next we see about in a class. Okay, class is a collection of objects. Okay, also it is also called template or blueprint or contract that uh, defines the objects. Okay, here we see we'll define a one class and we can add multiple objects to that class. For example, here we created in a one class called students and we can add multiple objects as a multiple students. Okay, it is treated as in a class is a collection of objects. Okay, another example I'll explain. Here we are creating a class with a person. Okay, with a name and designation are the variables, or it is also called data members, and learn, walk, eat are different functions. Okay, now in this particular class we are adding in another different objects. Here programmer is a one object and dancer is another object and singer is a different object. Like that we can add multiple objects to in a same class. Okay, in this session we learned about an object and class. Okay, thank you.